Are you feeling overwhelmed at work? Are you feeling that the work is never ending? Are you feeling that there's just no way you can say no to your boss? Well, you've arrived at the right video, because today we're going to explore how do you say no to your boss. Of course, we want to be helpful. Of course, we want to be the person who's able to do many, many different things. Of course, we want to shine in our performance. But there are times when it is important for us to say no, except that it's difficult to say no to our boss. Today, we're going to explore 6 different ways to say no to your boss. The first area is actually looking at a cost-benefit analysis. What do I mean by that? It's actually looking at the cost of what it would be for you to say yes and to really evaluate how beneficial that is. That's important because without that evaluation, our saying no to our boss comes from nowhere. And so when it comes to a cost-benefit analysis, what would it cost me to say yes in this situation? There are 3 questions that are really important. The first question is, what's in it for me? So if I say yes to my boss who wants me to do this particular thing, what's in it for me? Now, of course, it may be some extra money, but probably not. But maybe you're able to see, you know what, there's a skill set that I'm going to be able to master, or a skill set that I'm able to learn in doing this task. And so therefore, I really want to do it because I'm expanding my professional development and I'm improving in a certain area that needs improvement. The second question to answer is, do I have the bandwidth? You know, when I look at the hours of the day, it is limited. And so therefore, if I say yes to this task, do I have the bandwidth to accomplish it? Is it feasible that I'm actually going to have time to do the task? And then the third question is really the reverse side of that second question, is what will I have to give up to accomplish this task? So if I'm going to say yes to this task that's being asked of me, what am I giving up? Am I giving up perhaps finishing another task that I'm being asked to do? Am I being asked to give up some personal time because I'm going to have to put in extra hours to accomplish it? This is an important question for you to ask because it also determines, are you willing to say yes, or have you really reached the conclusion that in this stage, I need to say no? So the second way to say no to the boss is really to focus on the area of priorities. You know, I was talking with a client last week, and she's dealing with a boss who is constantly asking her to complete more and more tasks. She kind of feels obligated to say yes in this situation. And one of the things that she's experiencing is that for her boss, every single task is of equal priority. And I said to her, you know, that's where the problem lies. That in many ways, there has to be different priorities for our time. And so one of the things that we kind of co-created was that she will go back to her boss and she would ask her boss to establish some priorities over the things that she had to accomplish. So she was able to say, look, I cannot finish all these tasks because there's too much work to do and not enough hours. So I'd ask you to help me. What's the priority here? Help me prioritize so that I can get done what you need done now, and I can put in the back burner other things that are not as important. So one way of saying no to a boss is to help the boss really prioritize what's the most important and then focus on that. The third way of saying no is to say no but provide a solution. You know, there's a very different feeling when you go to your boss who's asked you to do something and you say no, than going to your boss and saying, look, I don't believe this is the right thing for me to do at this moment, but I have found a different solution for you. And what's that solution? Well, maybe you found someone else who's able to do that task who might be a better fit for that. Or maybe you have found a different way of doing the work that adds a little priority to something else. But whatever it is, you're not just saying no, but you're actively participating in the discussion and you're actually working with your boss to find another solution that perhaps they did not see at first. Before we reach the other 3 ways to say no to your boss, hopefully you're enjoying this episode, and if you are, I invite you to subscribe to the channel if you've already not done so. Please also press the bell and you will be reminded when the next episode comes out. Every week I produce episodes around the area of emotional intelligence, which has been proven to be critical for career success. The 4th way to say no to your boss is to avoid it becoming personal. You know, very often we can make things very personal, as if someone is piling all the work on us. And we don't want to respond from that space. You know, in many ways, what I've seen is that when you look at it logically, a boss can give extra work to someone. And who do they give extra work to? To the person who gets it done. And so very often what they do is they favor the person who works harder. Now, is this correct? Absolutely not. But instead of saying no to the boss, feeling hurt, or no to the boss and just using personal things, you're always picking on me, you're always giving me the extra work. To approach the boss and just say, look, I just want to show you, here's the hours of work I have, here's the different tasks I have to do, and perhaps you weren't aware. But if I say yes to this, I have to give up something else. And I'd love for you to help me decide what is it I should give up. That's a much better way of saying no, rather than really going on about how hurt you are, or perhaps the boss doesn't understand. This logic, I think, can help have a productive conversation. The 5th way to say no to your boss is to watch your timing. You know, the mood of the boss is very important. And therefore, it's important for us when we're going to say no to the boss, when we're going to suggest perhaps that someone else can do that, to really pick the right moment. So that if we know that our boss is in a bad mood, if they know that they're angry or they're anxious, they're probably not going to be open to other suggestions. So wait for the right time. Wait for the time perhaps when they're more upbeat, when they're more open for suggestions and ideas. That's the right moment to approach the conversation, because that's the moment where they're able to listen to you and not react in a way that is defensive and in a way that is from anger. And the 6th and final way to say no to your boss is actually to use your body language. You know, very often it's our body language that communicates a message. And so if we're coming to our boss and if we're saying with our voice, no, but if our body language shows timidness, it shows someone who is defensive, it shows someone who is crawling back into their own shell, what's the person going to believe? Are they going to believe the word no? Are they going to trust the body language? Of course, they're going to trust the body language. So it's very important that when we're saying no to our boss, that we're also showing up with confident body language that expresses that we are firm in this decision. And that's something that we want, because that is congruent with the words that we're using. You know, I can't begin to count how many people have said, I'm so stressed, I just can't handle one more thing. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you today and offered you 6 different ways that you can actually say no to your boss in a way that is helpful. And if you enjoyed this video, I invite you to watch the next video, which is how to deal with an angry boss.